What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to show you how to use pretty much any type of game controller for Blade and Soul. This will also work for any other MMO or computer game that doesn't have controller support. And basically what this program does, it lets you add all your buttons from any video game controller. So what this program will do is recognize a controller that's plugged in, and essentially you can take whatever keyboard buttons you would use on your keyboard and you can use them on the controller, and the computer will pretty much think that your controller is the keyboard. So if there's people out there that prefer controllers over keyboards like I do, this is one of the great programs here. And the program I use is called Xpadder. Now, I used to use this program a lot because, a while ago, I used to play with my PC on my TV screen, so I didn't have a computer desk. So using a keyboard wasn't really an option. So I found this program called Xpadder, and I could use this for this. So basically, I used to use this program to use my 360 controller for Blade and Soul China when I used to play on the China servers back in the day, before NA came out. I don't really use this anymore for Blade and Soul. Not for NA anyways, because I have a computer desk now, so I'm able to use my keyboard a lot more effectively versus it trying to sit it on my lap and use it. So little disclaimer for NCSoft, in case it somehow any NCSoft employees or someone from NCSoft sees this video, I don't use this for Blade and Soul anymore. And I'm only saying that because I don't know if they would consider this cheating by using a controller with hotkeys that you can pretty much customize whatever way you want. But yeah, so this is for anyone, like I said, that rather uses a controller versus a keyboard, and maybe the game you're playing doesn't have controller support. So I'm going to show you what to do from scratch. It's really simple program, very, very easy to use. So this one was my old Blade and Soul setup for when I played Blade and Soul China. And I use the 360/Xbox One controller. And what's great about the 360 and Xbox One controller is that it has the exact amount of buttons for combat. So you're not missing out. You have enough keys to do everything you need to do in combat. So I'm going to show you what to do from scratch. So basically, this is my old one. So we're just going to open up a blank profile. As you can see, the buttons are blank. So let's start a new one. So what we'll do is we'll go click on new. So if this is your first time running this program, what will happen is this blank screen will come up, and what this screen here is for is to detect the buttons on your computer, your controller, sorry. So what you'll do is you'll plug your controller in. If you don't have the drivers, you'd have to download the drivers, but that's pretty basic for any type of controller that you buy for your computer. So like I said, this will work for any controller, as long as your computer can recognize it, or if there's a driver for it, which is pretty much for any. I've never heard of a controller not working for a computer, or there not being a driver. So basically what we'll do is we'll start off by getting to recognize the analog sticks. So you'll click here where it says sticks. You have all your buttons here, different types of buttons, your D-pad, triggers, and whatnot. So basically we'll start with this analog sticks, and you'll have these two enable buttons. This enable button's for your left one, and this one's for your right. So when we click enable for the left one, it's going to ask me to press the buttons on my left analog stick so it knows which one is the left analog stick. So it's pretty much simple, just follow the instructions. So we'll click left, and then we'll push right, and now it detects my left analog stick. And as you can see, it recognizes all the motions. I'm pushing down, I'm pushing up, sort of diagonal at the same time. Yeah. So this is actually pretty good too for like those keyboard games where you don't have a controller, so you can't really move in direction smoothly because you get, if let's say you use a WASD and it's sort of robotic, this will give you a lot more smoother motion for those games too that don't have controller support. So let's get the right analog stick going. Same process, left, up, and now it detects my controller, both analog sticks. So now we'll move on to the D-pad. We'll click enable, and it'll ask me the same things: up, down, left, right. So now I have my analog stick recognized, or D-pad, sorry. So now we'll go down to all our buttons. this is where there's going to be a lot of buttons. So we'll start off with the A button, the X button, the Y button, the B button, my top bumper button, my right bumper button, the start button, and the select button. Now the only thing this program won't recognize is the logo X button. It doesn't recognize that for some reason, but that's not, you don't really need it anyways. So basically I have all my buttons recognized now, from my Y, X, A, B, start, select, slash back, whatever you guys want to consider it, your two bumper buttons. Now don't forget that your analog sticks have buttons too. So let's click our left analog stick in, bam, there's the new one, and then the right analog stick, bam. Now what I like to do with these is I like to actually make these into the shape of the controller itself too. So once you have all your buttons configured, oh wait, let's click on triggers first. Let's enable the triggers. There's my left trigger, and then there's my right. Okay, so now we have all our buttons on the controller set up. So what I like to do from here is get the shape of the Xbox 360 controller in. So let's see, our A button's here. Let's get our A, B, and all those other buttons over here. So our first four, you can glue. I don't know what the fuck that was, but okay. Let's get that there, that there, that there, that there. So these are our X, Y, B, and A buttons. Our bumper buttons, let's put by our trigger buttons. And then our two start buttons are right here, and these are our thumbsticks. So I'll take the left thumbstick and put it, just drag it to the middle. And then the right thumbstick we'll take right there. All right, so that. So basically I'm just going to try and do the layout, which, so it's roughly around here for the left analog stick. Get over there. And then the D-pad's usually right there, diagonal there to the bottom. Let's move these up a little bit out of the way for a second. And then, oh wow, that one, I didn't realize it would do that. That click button stayed right there. That's kind of cool that I recognize that. I've never noticed that before. All right, so here's your back button and your select button. So I just sort of keep these two together. And then our A button's here, so that would be the bottom. B is right there, so that would be right there. And this one's my X button, and this is my Y button. So let's try and neaten that up a little bit more. And then your trigger buttons here. So technically the bumper button's a little higher than the trigger button. So we'll put the trigger buttons at the top. So there we go. So basically we got all our buttons recognized now. So you'll click OK once you got all your configurations and your stuff ready and set up. So like if you had a PlayStation 2 controller, basically you'd set these pictures of the buttons up the way that a PlayStation's set up, which is really not that much different than an Xbox controller. But some people got other ones like gaming ones, or you know, where there's fucking 30 buttons on one controller, so you get a little more complicated in the picture layout, but you get used to your own setup after a while. But after you got this pretty much set up, hit OK. And so now you have this screen. Now this is the really easy part here, and this is where you would basically just add whatever buttons you want. So for Blade and Soul, I use my right analog stick as like the mouse. So as you can see, my mouse is moving. I don't have anything set up right now, but this would be the mouse button. So I would just click on that. And these outer arrows here, these are what would be your mouse, like your axes. So this would be your camera. So basically for the top one, you want that, and then you want that, and then you want that, and then you want that. So now you can see I'm using my controller, and as you can see the input there, it's showing that I'm using my right analog stick as the mouse. I also use this as a click button, but basically like because my one, I can't remember all the buttons off by heart. I took a picture last time I made it, so it's pretty much just an example and just a little example here. So like these would be your mouse buttons. So this is your left mouse button, this is your right click button, this is your center one, which would usually be your wheel and how you can click your wheel in. These ones I've never really used to know what they're for. So basically, depending on what type of character you use, whether it's Blade Master, Force Master, Kung Fu Master, etc., you would set up your skills, or your buttons anyways, as you'd want them. So let's go to my one, because I main Force Master. So this is the setup I have for Force Master. And so basically, I have this set up for how I'm comfortable with using my skills. And as you can see, all of these buttons are every single skill you have is available on your controller now. The only thing you can't do with this controller anyways, because the amount of buttons is on there, is you can't access like your stuff that doesn't involve moving in combat, like accessing the Hong store, your inventory or whatnot, but your keyboard's always next to you. So basically I just use my keyboard to use, like if I want to access my inventory, I'll press I or whatnot. So I'll show you guys a quick example of how this works in game. Just give me a sec here, because I'm going to have to log in, and I'm not going to do that while recording for obvious reasons. So I'll be right back. Okay, so once you've got your program here configured the way you want, I'll show you guys how it works in game now. And just so you guys know, this may not work for other classes, like the layout that I have, other than your movements. For your movements, you always want W, A, D, S, F. This makes it easy, so it's almost like you have your mouse in your hand while you're using your controller, and then the same with your other analog stick. You always want that to be your camera, and you always want your left click in there, and you always want Alt available, just in case you're using a controller that may not have enough buttons. You'll always want Alt, unless you want to reach for your mouse, your actual mouse, every time you want to do this. So as you can see, we'll click on the game here, and you can see the output, or the input I'm putting on the controller is it's pretty much, there's no delay, no input lag, everything works fine. So let's zoom out of here, and I'll actually do some combat here and show you guys how responsive it is. And I've never had any issues with this program not working properly. One thing that may come about if you're using Windows 8 or up, which I'd say pretty much most of you are, what may happen is with this game, with this program, there's no install really for this game or program. You just click on the icon and it sets up right away. But what may happen is it may say that this program can't run for Windows 8 or 10, like it might not be compatible. For any reason, if it says that, don't panic. There's a real simple fix for that, and you don't even have to go anywhere. It's basically what you do is, before you open up this program, right click on the icon, and there should be an option that says run compatibility mode or something like that, something that has to do with compatibility. Just click that, and then it should work fine. Should run. What it'll do is, if let's say this thing doesn't, I'm not sure what current version is out right now, but let's say that version only works for Windows 7 as an example. What it'll do is, if you're using Windows 8 or Windows 10, is it'll sort of make it makes it work so it thinks that you're using Windows 7. It's pretty much what it does. So one more thing when you're using this is, if you need to run it in administrative mode for it to work with executable files, so it's like games and whatnot. If you just normal double click on it to open it up, it'll run on the desktop. You'll be able to use your computer, like your mouse and stuff, on the desktop. But once you get to a game, it won't recognize the controller, so you got to use it in administrative mode for it to work for games, which is pretty simple. It's not a big deal. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward, simple, easy to use, safe. I've never had any issues with it, no viruses or anything like that. if you guys come up with any problems, just leave some questions in the comment below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Also, I will leave a link in the description too for where I downloaded it, because there is the actual website for Xpadder. They will try and get you to pay for it, but there's a free version too on the website that I downloaded it off. So there is a free version, so don't ever try and pay for this program. I mean, the creator that did it, I mean, by all means, if you like the program, support them. I'm not saying don't, but there are plenty of websites that have this for free for download. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The game works fine. Combat works fine. The only thing you really can't do with the Xbox controller, anyways, is just pull up your inventory and stuff, and that's basic. You can just there's no problem with just pressing I on your keyboard or any of your other buttons. It works fine. Your keyboard will still work with this program. Your mouse will still work fine with this program. So I mean, that's the only real sacrifice that comes with using the controller or with an Xbox controller anyways, is just your interface. That's nothing to just press, like I said, your buttons on there. So that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching, and any questions, like I said, leave down at the description or comments. Thank you.